Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here, and we're about to do another long-awaited Siege comparison. This time around we're taking a look at Crosshairs. And as you can see here, they do pay a fair amount of homage to the Generation 1 original, as we have him here on the left and the new Siege version here on the right. They do pay a lot of homage to him, especially with the decals here on the legs of the new one. They do closely resemble some of the patterns and such that are on the Generation 1 version. So all in all, they did a nice touch. The biggest difference, obviously, is the head sculpt is completely different. But I think I can get my head around that. The new one doesn't look too bad. But of course, the source of the new one is where I have the most trouble. It is a repaint of Ironhide. So that I'm pretty disappointed in. But of course, Ratchet also was a repaint of Ironhide, but at least Ratchet came with some different accessories, so they at least did that much for it. But here all they did was paint Crosshairs in a new color, give him a different head sculpt, and we basically have Ironhide Mark II. As he comes complete with that same rocket launcher. And if you remember from the Ironhide video, you can simply take that rocket launcher, bend the colored end here, put it back in his hand, and now he has a hammer. Which is very stupid. It is a very stupid idea for a weapon. Whereas here on the original, of course was a Target Master. So he came here with Pinpointer. And Pinpointer transforms into a dual-barreled rocket-propelled grenade launcher. Of course, Crosshairs in the G1 continuity was the weapons supervisor for the Autobots. He maintained all their weapons to make sure they were in peak operating efficiency, and he would have also been in charge of supplying them with their ammunition. However, since Autobots' supply lines were always notoriously difficult to keep operational, he would often have to force them to conserve their ammo. Crosshairs tended to do that to the extreme by going to the point that he wouldn't take a shot with his weapon if he didn't think it would score some immediate result. So he's a bit stingy on the ammo, but in times of war like that, you can't really blame him to a degree. Anyway, let's look at the G1's articulation so we can compare it to the new one. For the arms, we can rotate his arms all the way around at the shoulder. Does have some good ratcheting there, that's nice. You can bend his legs at the knee in the improper way, but they can be bent again at the knees, so he can be made to look like he's sitting down. And that's more or less about it for the G1 version. For the Siege version, of course, we have the benefits of more modern toy engineering. We can turn his head from left to right, and it can rock a bit up and down, so the head is on a bit of a ball joint. We can raise his arm at the shoulder about so far. And of course, the arm rotates at the shoulder all the way around. He does have a joint at the elbow, so you can bend his arm at the elbow about 90 degrees. And there is a swivel at the bicep, so he does have the famous G.I. Joe battle grip. You can twist him at his hips. His legs can also be spread apart into a full splits. He can also raise his leg up about 90 degrees, and you can bend him at the knee about 90 degrees. You can also shift his foot over to the side, although that looks rather painful. So there we have it, a nice marvel of engineering. Now let's transform these guys into their truck modes and see how they look by comparison. Now here we have them in their truck modes. As you can see, it is quite a considerable difference. But of course, from the era that Crosshairs was being released in the G1 time period, in 1987, Hasbro was starting to phase out any of them that were based on real-world vehicles, opting instead for futuristic or Cybertronian-style vehicles, so they didn't have to pay licensing fees. So we ended up with something that they claimed was a truck, but we really didn't have anything but their word to go by that this was a truck. Whereas the Siege one, being a repaint of Ironhide, he's basically a Cybertronian van. And of course, on G1 Crosshairs, you get one spot to hang pinpointer, and that's directly dead set over the cockpit. And of course, he can be rotated all the way around. So that does lead to some playability. Imagine a turret like this on your own vehicle. How many of you would keep it pointed backwards to deal with tailgaters? Whereas we have here with the van, the rocket launcher does have 4 different slots that it can be pegged in. And well, it doesn't really offer you much difference wherever you peg it. It's always going to be off-center. But as there is a nice little gap there between his arms, you can, as I showed you with Ironhide, you can insert the rocket launcher in there, and Crosshairs is a little snugger than Ironhide, or at least my sample here is a little snugger on holding that pin in there, and then you've got one that is dead center. If you're picky about that sort of thing. That at least shows you do have it as an option. Now, how well do these toys roll? Well, let's take the new one out of the way here, and we'll show you. Alright, we'll knock the gun off, but how well did the original one roll? Fair at best. Whereas we have the new one here. Let's put that onto the back. How well does he roll? Slightly better. Not by much, and this is a nice smooth table. So, unfortunately, I think they ain't going to be cut out for the carpet beneath me either. Now we get down to my thoughts. It was nice of them to bring Crosshairs back into the toy line. That much I will give them credit for. However, I am most displeased with the fact that he's just another repaint. So he'll be about the 3rd one repainted with the Ironhide, out of Ironhide. And as stated earlier, we had 7 repainted from Starscream. So it kind of got to be enough with the repaints, Hasbro. I know that's a cheaper way of making them, but they do get old very, very fast. But I will still give Hasbro credit for doing what they did with Crosshairs. The paint job and the sticker details do pay a nice homage to the original toy. And that I can't really argue with. Now, if they just hadn't made him the same mold as Ironhide, complete with the gun, maybe I'd think it was worth more to many of you. But a lot of it's going to depend on how much of a fan of Crosshairs you really are. And that concludes my review of the Siege version of Crosshairs. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up down here at YouTube. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button to join our ranks. And ring the bell so you'll be notified when I post new content. Because weird reviews like this go up whenever I feel like it. Also, share this channel with your friends. That's what helps make us grow. And leave your thoughts of Crosshairs in the comments down below. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.